Nirvana, the band that has etched its name into the annals of music history, has an unparalleled influence. If I were to describe it, I would say they were like the Beatles in the 90s. It may seem strange, but it's also surprisingly accurate given how deeply the music landscape has been reshaped. Most people associate Nirvana with your tragic loss, Kurt Cobain. This event not only marked the sad end of a musical era, but also catapulted Nirvana into the pantheon of immortal bands. In the coming pages, we'll delve into the essence of this band and uncover the reasons behind its seismic impact. I invite you to join me as we explore the essence of their music and reveal the current paths of the surviving band members. So, let's embrace the grunge spirit, come as you are and prepare for the ride. This story will be told by Kurt Cobain himself. Let's go. My roots go back to Aberdeen, Washington, where I spent my formative years. Music has shaped my upbringing thanks to my family's rich musical heritage. My aunt and uncle, and even my great-uncle, encountered the world of bands and tunes. In my childhood, I was a fairly cheerful soul, finding solace in realms like music, drawing, and cartoons. However, the divorce of my parents shook the foundations of my being. This pivotal moment triggered defiance and withdrawal in me, elements that would go on to shape the punk persona I'd eventually embody. The fateful meeting with Buzz Osborne, the voice and strings of the Melvins, while I was still in high school, proved transformative. He opened the gateway to punk rock and introduced me to a slew of bands that would serve as the inspirational bedrock for the birth of Nirvana. The true genesis of Nirvana took shape when I crossed paths with Krist Novoselic during those high school years. Convincing the talented bassist to join took persistent effort spanning months, but eventually, Krist came around. Krist Novoselic's origins can be traced back to Compton, California. As a native of Croatia, Krist was exposed to a myriad of musical influences during his upbringing. From Yugoslavian bands to renowned acts like Black Sabbath, The Who, and Led Zeppelin, his musical tapestry was rich and diverse. At the tender age of 14, Krist found himself captivated by the allure of punk rock. This infatuation with the genre marked the beginning of his journey with the bass, a choice sparked by the inspiration he drew from bassists like Geezer Butler and Gene Simmons. Krist's distinctive blend of volume and velocity on the bass would later become synonymous with many of Nirvana's chart-topping tracks, including the iconic In Bloom. My ears perked up when I first encountered Krist's uniquely vigorous and rapid style. It was a style that would eventually draw my attention and through mutual acquaintances, lay the foundation for the earliest incarnation of Nirvana. Despite attending different high schools, our paths converged. Kurt handed Krist a tape of my prior musical venture, a gesture that served as a glimpse into my musical essence and eventually paved the way for our union. Our journey together involved a carousel of drummers, a pursuit that persisted until 1990 when we finally found the missing puzzle piece that would complete our sonic puzzle. Dave Grohl, a lad hailing from Warren, Ohio. At the tender age of 12, he plucked the strings of his first guitar, opting to chart his musical course through self-discovery rather than conventional lessons. Dave's early high school days saw him bouncing between various bands with his pals. Initially recognized as a guitarist, fate would nudge him towards a different path after he encountered the sonic wonder of Rush. The urge to become a drummer was ignited. To this day, my musical compass is steered by influences like Neil Peart and John Bonham. In fact, I'm inked with a tattoo commemorating Bonham, a testament to his impact. By 1989, Dave's presence was cemented in the band Scream, where his drumming prowess gleamed, even if the band's mainstream destiny remained elusive. After 4 years, the cosmos once again wove our destinies together when Buzz Osborne played matchmaker at a Scream show, connecting me, Krist, and Dave. According to Krist Novoselic, it was evident from the get-go that Dave was the drumming powerhouse Nirvana had been seeking. Nirvana's inception in the late 80s, precisely in 1987, was a prologue to their iconic status in the 90s. They emerged as a direct counterforce to the era of hair metal that had reigned from the mid to late 80s. This period was characterized by band members flaunting flamboyant, hairsprayed locks, elaborate makeup, and extravagant costumes, often overshadowing the music itself. Much like how the punk rock movement had rebelled against the classic rock of the 60s and early 70s, Nirvana spearheaded the grunge uprising as a riposte to the hair bands of the 80s. In the nascent stages, the name Nirvana wasn't even a contender. The band grappled with monikers like Pen Cap Chew, Ted Ed Fred, and even Skid Row, which incidentally already belonged to a hair metal outfit at the time. The moniker Nirvana eventually graced the band due to my deep affinity for Buddhism. The name encapsulated the concept of liberation from suffering, which resonated with me, fueled by my punk sensibilities. I yearned for a name that encapsulated beauty rather than anger, a name that could stand for something profound. Our sonic landscape stood apart from the upbeat rock anthems that dominated the late 80s. Instead of soaring guitars and frenetic solos, our music resonated with a muddier quality. Melodic verses often gave way to thunderous choruses, like a storm brewing on the horizon. Punk rock coursed through our veins, and I often stated that my aspiration was to emulate the Pixies. I never considered my creations to be fundamentally different from the music that had shaped my youth. Initially, the lineup consisted of myself, Krist Novoselic, and Aaron Burkhardt. Regrettably, Aaron's lack of communication hampered our collaboration, leading to his departure. The drumming carousel continued with Dave Foster, but his stint in jail dashed those hopes. Aaron returned briefly before being replaced. The quest for a permanent drummer persisted, culminating in Chad Channing's arrival. Chad contributed to our live shows and played a part in recording our inaugural album, Bleach Era. Our initial outing, Bleach, garnered a measure of success, albeit not on the mainstream's grand stage. The album was a force of ferocity and aggression, a testament to our roots. However, it wasn't perfectly poised for mainstream conquest. I openly acknowledged that external pressures were at play. The burgeoning grunge wave emanating from Seattle compelled us to meld our sound to this new trend. For the time being, I reined in my pop and artistic inclinations. While Bleach didn't shatter sales records, it received praise from critics far and wide. It stood as a triumph for the sub-pop label. The album found resonance among college students, a blend of 70s punk ethos entwined with the spirit of Seattle's rock scene. Initially, it moved 40,000 copies, not a staggering number, but it would later witness a resurgence in 1992 when our popularity reached its zenith. Bleach was an important stepping stone, yet our lineup wasn't yet solidified. Interestingly, Chad Channing, despite contributing to the album and our live performances, was never officially informed that he was part of the band. Signing with DGC Records. Our transformative moment was signing with DGC Records, a major label. This was the turning point that propelled Nirvana onto the world stage, forever changing the course of our journey. Nirvana's quest for a grander sound led to their second release, and with it came the need for a fresh drummer. In 1990, while seeking a successor for Chad Channing, Dave Grohl entered the scene through a mutual friend. Coming from the demise of his band Scream, Grohl effortlessly slid into our dynamic as if he had always belonged. Dave's exuberant drumming and distinctive style injected Nirvana with an explosive energy, transforming us from a garage band to a stadium-filling powerhouse. The transition from Bleach to Nevermind marked a seismic shift in our sonic identity. The album was an exploration of melodic verses intertwined with bass-heavy, softer tracks like Something in the Way. Yet, one particular song managed to merge the fury of Bleach with the melodic brilliance of Nevermind. Smells Like Teen Spirit era. In 1991, Smells Like Teen Spirit reverberated across the music realm, triggering an upheaval that forever altered the 90s soundscape. The era of acid-washed jeans and flamboyant rock attire yielded to baggy flannel shirts and attire that appeared plucked from laundry day. The youth of the 90s thirsted for novelty, and Smells Like Teen Spirit sounded the death knell for the 80s rock scene. The accompanying music video, set in a high school gym, was a visual rallying cry. Cheerleaders in black and red personified the sentiments of disenchanted American youth. The song's infectious riffs, electrifying vocals, energetic drums, and commanding bass lines forged an anthem for the 90s, becoming one of the most played tracks of all time. In Utero era. Fresh from the staggering success of Nevermind, we unleashed In Utero in 1993. This album introduced a more measured tempo and a pronounced pop sensibility. Yet, amidst the shifts, hard-hitting tracks like Heart-Shaped Box and Rape Me affirmed our enduring grit. In Utero debuted at #1 on both the US and UK charts, cementing its triumph. Hits like All Apologies showcased Nirvana's versatility, bridging diverse genres and captivating a broad audience. Recording the album proved challenging, with Courtney Love's presence causing interruptions. While her intentions were rooted in Missing Me, her involvement added an unexpected layer of complexity to the process. Notably, the drums were recorded in a kitchen, with Dave Grohl's drum kit outfitted with a staggering 30 microphones. This unconventional approach lent a unique sonic flavor, particularly evident in faster tracks like Tourette's. Kurt Cobain's tragic end and Nirvana's future. Nirvana's chapter effectively concluded with my passing in 1994. My death marked the end of an era. Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic contemplated releasing a live album titled Verse Chorus Verse. However, the grief following my departure made it impossible to finalize. Post my passing, Nirvana's album sales soared, with record stores worldwide depleting their stock of our albums. Several posthumous releases followed, including the iconic MTV Unplugged in New York, Live Tonight, Sold Out, and From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkah. Each of these albums debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. Dave Grohl's journey continued with the formation of the Foo Fighters, who carved their own path to mega success. Despite their remarkable achievements, the band faces uncertainty following the tragic death of drummer Taylor Hawkins. Although no official disbandment plans have been announced, the future remains uncertain. Krist Novoselic transitioned from music to politics after my demise, emerging as a prominent figure in the political landscape. An advocate against content censorship in music, he has remained outspoken on these issues. While he briefly entertained the idea of running for Lieutenant Governor of Washington as a Democrat, his political aspirations waned. In 2004, he authored a book titled Of Grunge and Government, Let's Fix This Broken Democracy, which delved into Nirvana's ascent and his political undertakings. The Best of Era and Legal Battles. Following my death, Courtney Love attempted to sue Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic over their claim to Nirvana's music. She controversially labeled them sidemen rather than integral band members like myself. This sparked a legal back and forth, eventually culminating in a settlement out of court. Amidst this turmoil, a best-of compilation of Nirvana was released. The compilation, despite the controversies, became a resounding success. Interestingly, it introduced You Know You're Right, one of our biggest hits, capturing both the essence of Bleach and the melodic brilliance of Nevermind. The box set, with the lights out, released in 2004, offered a treasure trove of early demos, rehearsal recordings, and live renditions of our cherished songs. After a hiatus, Nirvana made a triumphant return in 2014 when we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The shadow of Kurt Cobain loomed over this event, as Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic reached out to several male singers for the ceremony, yet all declined due to the immense challenge of following in the footsteps of such an iconic musician. Faced with this predicament, Grohl turned to female vocalists, offering a fresh and distinctive perspective that wouldn't seek to replicate Kurt's brilliance. The lineup for the performance included Joan Jett, Kim Gordon, St. Vincent, and Lord. The performance resonated strongly, and it was touching to witness Grohl acknowledge the contributions of past drummers within the band's history. When Nirvana came to Britain. The BBC documentary, When Nirvana Came to Britain, released in September 2021, provided insights from Dave Grohl and Krist Novoselic. Crafted to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Nevermind, this documentary shed light on our journey. The subsequent month brought exciting news of an anniversary edition of Nevermind, featuring a treasure trove of 70 unreleased tracks, providing a fresh perspective on the album's evolution. Musical style. Nirvana's musical style was a fluid entity that evolved throughout our relatively short journey. While often categorized as grunge, our sonic identity traversed realms of punk rock and even touched on pop sensibilities. Our catalog exhibited diversity, ranging from tracks that could be linked to Black Sabbath's influence to others that could seamlessly grace any mainstream pop station. Kurt Cobain's guitar playing is a fascinating study, marked by its simplicity. Steering clear of complexity, he adhered to certain patterns that inexplicably harmonized. The core of our riffs rested on power chords and straightforward structures. However, Cobain's studio experimentation involved layering distorted guitars over clean tones, creating a nuanced blend. Dave Grohl's drumming, known for its furious energy, injected an electrifying new dimension that had been absent on Bleach. His technical prowess added depth and dynamism to our hits, propelling them up the charts. Krist Novoselic's bass work, often overlooked but crucial, contributed significantly to our sonic signature. His pulsating bass lines, as showcased in songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit and Something in the Way, resounded powerfully. This amalgamation resulted in compositions that transitioned from hushed verses to electric choruses. The fusion of these elements came to define much of the post-grunge era, as artists attempted to capture our distinctive essence with varying degrees of success. Legacy. Nirvana's legacy stands as a testament to their enduring popularity. Despite our brief tenure, our impact fundamentally altered the music landscape for over a decade. Our tunes continue to grace the airwaves, and the quest for the next Nirvana persists. Our cultural impact was unparalleled. We provided a voice for a generation that yearned for a band of their own. We remain among the most played artists on the radio, and our influence reverberates throughout the rock genre. While many artists hesitate to mimic Kurt Cobain's style, the raw energy coursing through our music continues to shape bands to this day. Nirvana dating and relationship history. Unfortunately, I don't have personal details or insights into the dating and relationship history of the members of Nirvana. My knowledge is based on the information provided up to September 2021, and I don't have access to private or specific details about their personal lives beyond what has been publicly discussed or reported. Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. One of the most renowned relationships tied to Nirvana is that of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, the frontwoman of the band Grohl. Their paths crossed in 1990 at a show, where they initially shared an unenthusiastic connection despite Courtney's persistent advances. Kurt's initial disinterest led to canceled dates with Courtney, revealing his reservations. However, over time, his feelings evolved, and he came to recognize that the single life no longer fulfilled him. He saw a future with her. Their early relationship was clouded by shared struggles with substance abuse. Unfortunately, allegations emerged linking Courtney Love to Kurt Cobain's heroin addiction, although these claims were largely unfounded and fueled by fans' resentment toward Courtney's involvement with the band. On February 24, 1992, Kurt and Courtney tied the knot in Waikiki Beach, Hawaii. Their daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, arrived a few months later, on August 18, 1992. Legal challenges surfaced when Courtney admitted to using heroin before realizing she was pregnant, raising concerns about their readiness for parenthood and the potential risks their drug use posed to Frances Bean's well-being. Challenges and troubled times. By 1994, their relationship had taken a darker turn. Submerged in his heroin addiction, Kurt's mental state deteriorated to the point where Courtney reported a distressing situation to the police, claiming he was suicidal and in possession of a gun. Interestingly, when the police arrived, Kurt denied the claims, suggesting he was merely seeking refuge from Courtney. These events only intensified the strain in their relationship. In a bid to help, Courtney organized an intervention and convinced Kurt to enter rehab. Unfortunately, his time there was short-lived, as he managed to escape by scaling a fence surrounding the facility. Tragedy struck shortly afterward. Kurt Cobain was found dead from an apparent suicide by a shotgun on a subsequent day. The circumstances surrounding his death were marked by the presence of heroin and other substances in his system. The incident left an indelible mark on the history of music and culture, forever altering the trajectory of Nirvana and the lives of those who held the band dear. Nirvana, Scandals and Controversies. MTV VMAs 1992. Nirvana, a band often unafraid of stirring controversy, became particularly embroiled in it after achieving mainstream success. During the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, the band was scheduled to perform their hit song, Lithium. However, Kurt Cobain intended to play Rape Me instead, a choice that MTV found objectionable due to its subject matter. In an act of defiance, the band began their performance with the intro of Rape Me before transitioning into Lithium. MTV was left disconcerted by this unexpected twist. Drug usage. Kurt Cobain's widely publicized struggle with heroin cast a shadow over the band's image, which, while not pristine, had generally maintained a positive aura. Kurt's heroin use led to multiple overdoses, including one after their appearance on Saturday Night Live. These struggles fueled rumors about the band's potential demise. Interestingly, Kurt wasn't the sole figure grappling with addiction in the Seattle music scene. Lane Staley, lead singer of Alice in Chains, also battled heroin addiction. While some speculated that Kurt introduced Lane to the drug, this notion was largely unsupported. Tragically, Lane Staley passed away 8 years after Kurt, on April 5 as well, following an apparent heroin overdose. Nevermind album cover. In 2021, a controversy erupted concerning the album cover of Nevermind, which featured a naked baby. The grown-up individual in the photograph, Spencer Eldon, filed a lawsuit against the band, alleging sexual exploitation and claiming the album cover constituted child abuse. Eldon asserted that the image had caused him emotional distress, hampered his earnings, and diminished his overall life enjoyment. The lawsuit was ultimately dismissed as baseless, with accusations that it amounted to child pornography. Further information emerged, revealing that Eldon had willingly recreated the image multiple times for financial gain and even sported a "Nevermind" tattoo on his chest. The case seemed to be a questionable attempt at securing financial gain and was eventually dismissed when Eldon's legal team failed to respond to these counterclaims. While the possibility of refiling the case remains, no further action from Eldon's team has materialized. Nirvana discography. Studio albums. Bleach, 1989. Nevermind, 1991. In Utero, 1993. Live albums. MTV Unplugged in New York, 1994. From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkah, 1996. Live at Reading, 2009. Live at the Paramount, 2019. Live and Loud, 2019. Compilation albums. Incesticide, 1992. Nirvana, 2002. Sliver the Best of the Box, 2005. Icon, 2010. Nirvana's journey was marked by both musical brilliance and controversies, leaving an indelible imprint on the history of rock music.